station.
Welcome to Fort Fritz, your one-stop for news, current events, and all things supernatural, paranormal, and things that go bump in the night, packaged and presented in the form of know-nothing know-it-alls entertaining the unknown. Hello, I am Fritz, joined by Sabrina.
Hey, everybody.
And for the next hour, we will tell you some current event stuff and also our favorite campfire tales because it's the summer, and let's get spookier and spookier and spookier.
I enjoy it. I have been sweating a lot this summer, so why not get spooked even more while sweating at the same time?
Sabrina, let me ask you this. Do you think we are alone in the universe?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so this is a question most people have either problems with or they already know what they're going to say, either yes or no, right?
Correct.
I would imagine. So this is from ancientorigins.net, ancient-origins.net.
Someone took the one without the hyphen, huh?
Yeah, and that
How rude.
ancientorigins.com probably, and they're like, .net. No, I got to add the hyphen. The article is, are alien messages encoded in our DNA?
Oh.
The article posits that are we alone in the universe? This is a question most people have pondered at one time or another. We know that the closest planet is light years away. That means it would take light, which travels an ungodly amount of miles per hour.
7 miles an hour is light.
Times a million light years away.
That's what I meant.
So we have no means of traveling to these planets. So if we are visited by something other than humans, they probably have an advanced civilization, one would imagine.
Yes, or maybe we're the advanced ones and they are still living in the cave-like situations.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know it's crazy talk to think that we are the only planet that has living species on it.
Right. So the article says, perhaps aliens already have visited here in the past, or maybe they're visiting right now and have been doing so all along. But for reasons we cannot fathom, they're either unable or unwilling to contact us openly. If that is the case, they may have left coded information behind somewhere announcing their presence, waiting for us to become advanced enough to find it and correctly interpret its meaning.
But then also they put these codes in our bodies?
Mm-hmm. So some researchers believe data revealing the truth about our origins and about our connection to alien life can be found by searching within, and that goes into the mitochondrial DNA, the things that we have that other animals don't. For instance, we have 44 chromosomes plus 2 sex chromosomes, so 46. And maybe this article posits human beings were created as biological mirror images of our progenitors.
Progenitors, that sounds dirty.
A superior extraterrestrial civilization that paved the way for our existence millions of years ago.
So you're telling me that we look like what the aliens are. They've built our DNA. There's a code in here somewhere that we are too stupid to figure out right now. Mm-hmm. However, once we do figure it out, we'll realize that there is an alien, Jeff, that looks just like you.
Yep.
But it's maybe like a different shade of blue.
And maybe that's why aliens are visiting our planet now that we have the technology available to really look into our DNA.
Whoa.
It also goes back, this even freaks me out because it goes back to it lends more credence to the biblical phrase, quote, "for you were made in my image," unquote.
You're right. So God's the alien.
Maybe.
Huh. Amen.
So we have DNA that may or may not have some kind of semblance to extraterrestrial origin, but now we have a story that I think feeds right into this. This is Mandaddy's story, Ichneumon Parasitoid Wasps. You can find this one on the Fort Fritz episode, Land of the Lost Cause. Enjoy.
The jungle, what's more romantic than that?
Have you ever heard of Ichneumon?
What? That's a great band.
It would be a great band, but it's actually a horrible thing. Ichneumons, pronounced Ichneumons.
Spell that.
ICHNEUMONS. M-O-N-S.
In EU.
M-O-U-S-E.
Ichneumons. Doo-doo-doo. Ichneumons. Doo-doo-doo. They're massive soup for family of parasitic wasps.
Like,
So they are, in fact, a massive superfamily of parasitic wasps.
Now,
I
wait
just
a
love
minute.
the
Is
term.
this like Lori Loughlin parasitic wasp?
Oh, got him!
Bam! Topical. Topical. Bring it. While usually they're not a threat to humans, usually, but right now, evidently, that is
Big.
It was
too.
big. It was big. It had weight to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I felt like a baby was on my neck. Now, the thing about these wasps is they have a rather horrific way of starting life. Now, they average in length between 1/8 to 5 inches long. And all have a intimidating ovipositor, which is quite literally an egg depositor, but it looks like a stinger. They don't actually sting. They just look like these giant evil wasps. But one thing that they all have in common is that they start life as a parasite.
What's the difference between ovipositing and stinging?
Well, stinging stinging would inject a venom,
And-
while an ovipositor injects an egg.
Okay, so
Gross.
way worse than a sting.
yeah.
True, but it's not a literal
It's not a
outstage. It's just more like it's like blick, and now worse stuff happens way later.
And now you
Wait, I'm
are
talking
a
about
host.
myself.
Yeah. You're a host.
Good deal. Now, the female wasp will lay their eggs near or often on a host. Now, they have been observed drilling their ovipositor 2 to 3 inches into a dead log because they can hear larvae inside of it. So they'll put their antenna next to a log, hear fly larvae in it, and they'll dig their ovipositor into the wood 2 or 3 inches.
I don't like the way you're saying ovipositor.
It's just fun to say.
It's like really erotic.
Ovipositor.
So, yeah, he's
and
got
then they
such a-
inject the ovipositor.
So throaty.
One to talk. Now, some
I don't
scientists
even know what that means.
have discovered, you will.
Oh.
Some scientists have discovered that the tip of some of the ovipositors may be hardened
Super hot.
with iodized manganese or zinc, like almost tiny little drill bits.
Oh, wow.
And they're not sure if it's like a natural process or if the wasps are somehow using outside materials like tools, like if they're somehow
You go
coating their
galvanized?
ovipositors. Yeah, basically.
Get
So
like wasp shop.
this week on Wasp Shop.
I got the titanium ovipositor, girl.
Now, make sure you're...
Got that bling bling in my ovipositor.
You're gonna go straight down in that log, girl.
Yeah.
You know it, girl.
Make sure your fifth hand is on the third drill bit. Now,
Holy shit, dude.
Kind
That's
of
nuts.
involved. Now,
That's
once
nuts.
yeah, it is. Once the eggs begin to mature into the larval stage, they'll begin to feed on the blood and soft tissue of the
There it
fly larva, and eventually chew their way through the wood and escape. But when eating fly babies isn't enough, certain Ichneumon wasps step up their game a bunch. While most parasites don't kill their host because no host equals no food, however, parasitoids give zero f***s about the life of their hosts.
Yeah, just like wasps. Mean mother.
They're just
Yeah.
evil
Wasps
bastards.
suck.
Yeah, they suck. Bees do a lot for the planet. Wasps can go bite a big one.
they don't do anything for the
Even
planet.
spiders, like I see a spider, I'm like kind of like maybe he's okay.
Yeah,
I'll
you have a
name
place.
him.
You
His
have a
name's like
place in the
Robin or
ecosystem.
something. If I see a wasp, it's war. Like I
Wasp-
don't give a.
So
Yeah.
wasps have no benefit to the
No, they just
environment?
help other
At least
wasps.
for us, maybe. Yeah,
They're
I
just
don't
like
know.
normal wasps in the white
But they suck.
culture. They just help themselves and nothing else.
Yeah.
But-
See, there you go.
That was
See?
Angela's
Second
joke,
shot,
though.
Lori Loughlin, where
Yeah.
you at? Hashtag twice. Get the
Felicity
two-piece.
Huffman as
Ba-boom.
well.
Yeah.
One of the things also that they've been observed is using a sort of mind control against their hosts.
What?
So one breed of wasp lays their eggs up to about 80 directly inside of caterpillars. They land on a caterpillar, put in the ovipositor, and just drop in the eggs.
Gross.
Now, once inside, the eggs begin to mature.
It's just
And-
a serial rapist.
basically, but way
Way
more
worse.
horrible. Way more horrible. Now, the eggs begin to mature and feed once again on the body fluids, but somehow they always avoid eating any vital organs. Somehow these little tiny larvae bugs know how to eat the right parts of the caterpillar
So
to keep
advanced.
it alive.
They're just like, first the appendix,
Yeah.
then the gallbladder.
Then the
Those are the best.
calves. You're like you got 10 calves.
And
I can
one
take a couple of
kidney.
those. Yeah, exactly.
One, just one.
And so basically, it becomes a shell of itself, but it still stays alive somehow, which is even worse.
Good
Now,
God.
the wasp larvae go through several molts inside of the caterpillar. And so as they shed their
Sam, do they pay
exoskeletons...
rent?
They should.
God.
They should. Now, as they shed their exoskeletons and they expand, the caterpillar begins to grow and expand as well. Till it looks like it's been described as a soda can in the freezer about to burst. And so it's just,
poor thing.
Yeah, it's just horrible. Now, at this point, the wasp larvae have assumed total control of the caterpillar. And it will start using its own silk to create a protective covering to shield the larva. It'll actually cover itself almost into a cocoon just to save the larvae, not for its own uses. And then it'll go into defense mode. It'll actually get up on its hind legs and lash out at any predators.
Whoa.
And to save the eggs inside of it, including hyperparasitoids that actually lay their eggs into other wasp larvae. So it even goes to another level where there's a wasp that lies eggs inside of other wasp eggs.
Dude, this is so crazy.
Everybody's always like, the beauty of nature. That
It's just evil on evil.
Evil and mean.
And blood and eating.
It's just anything for survival.
Insects
That's it.
need a lot of therapy.
As Amy was checking her...
I know. Look at your fingernails when you said that was so real, man.
Oh,
Good
my
Lord.
God.
Well
I'm so
done.
infinitely more frightened of you now. Please
I didn't
don't
think that was
ever
possible.
kill me.
I didn't think that was possible. It is.
Ugh.
Almighty.
Like I said, now they will rear up on their hind legs and whip its head violently at any attackers. It's even been
Does that
observed.
nay-nay? Does that whip?
God,
Does that nay-nay?
that was a horrible
Does
time
that
for
whip?
culture right there.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the...
That was a tight. No, I'm talking to him. That was a tight ass motherfucking dance. Also, Who are you scaring, caterpillar? Swollen caterpillar whipping your head,
Swole.
whipping the nay.
Because when it bucks up, it's like 7 feet tall.
Full of like
big ass caterpillar.
it's just like gyrating.
Dune.
Like I'm full of like wasp eggs. Like off.
It's full of political powers at that point.
Ugh, gross.
It's even been observed grabbing enemies with its mouth and tossing it aside like Godzilla style.
That's gross.
Which is odd for a placid vegetarian. You know, they're very placid vegetarians. All of a sudden they become these violent beasts. Now, it's fun time. Time for all 80 larvae to make their exit. And they do it all at once. Over the course of an hour, they release chemicals that paralyze the host, and then they begin to gnaw their way out. Now, what's interesting is that when the larvae finally leave their final exoskeleton actually kind of plugs up the hole left. So they actually create sort of like a half-ass bandage surgery
like
as they leave. So it doesn't, once again, the host doesn't die immediately as it should. As it bursts out, you think it would just finally be the death. Nope, still keeps it alive for a little bit. And so the host is now gravely wounded and basically will just live out for a short amount of time because it can't eat, has no blood, anything, eventually dies. But how do they mind control the host? Scientists have dissected caterpillars after being used as a host, and what they found out is that a few of the larvae are left behind, almost like they sacrifice themselves for the good of the brood.
Like the runts?
I don't know if it's selected that way. We don't know. But one or two of them will stay behind. They'll inject into the brain of the host a cocktail of chemicals that keep it under control, and then they stay behind so their brothers and sisters may escape and survive. So it's like
drug it up.
They like two of them like for the team. We'll take it for the team.
Just
and
like draw straws.
They could, like just like when a plane's going down and someone has to control the plane so it hits. They're like, you guys go. I've got this. That's basically it. You know, these are the Captain America of the wasp larvae.
Spoilers. Come on.
So, once again, as we've always learned, as we look into the horrors of the macro world around us, if you zoom into the micro, you can find some of the scariest shit around.
It's so terrifying.
Yes.
Just like Ichneumon wasps. Ichneumon wasps. Terrifying, scary, and now I've got bugs inside of me!
Yeah, you're scary.
Don't go anywhere. More current events and stories upcoming on Fort Fritz, Real Radio 104.1.
Fort Fritz on Real Radio 104.1.
Welcome back to Fort Fritz. I am Fritz. Right over there is Sabrina. Jumping back into current event news, UFOstalker.com, one of my favorite websites. If you're out and about, let's say you're in Missouri, and you're like, I want to see if any aliens have visited Missouri, just go to UFOstalker.com.
Do they have sightings in Florida as well, or just Missouri?
Well, glad that you brought that up, because I just today typed in Florida, and I found one from August 7th, just a couple of days ago.
Yes.
In Ocala, Florida.
That is very close.
Yep, this was reported to MUFON, and I will go ahead and read what the eyewitness said about it. Ongoing for the past 4 nights and gets worse every night, and I'm sure it's going to happen again tonight. Now, we don't know for sure, if they know for sure, but starts out with larger orbs releasing tiny ones. Sometimes the larger ones move, position, or streak across the sky. They also project beams of light, almost not visible, and also seem to have an aura or a cone of light rotating around them. The little ones blink and fly all around at night, and the dark blue ones land on people's windows, including mine, and much more that can't be explained.
Bum, bum, bum.
So that is a summary. 4 to 6 big lights and mini orbs for the past 4 nights.
I think they're playing marbles up there.
Maybe, yeah.
I think just like an old game of ball shuffle ball.
Yeah, what's it called when you throw the
Jumping
ball?
jacks.
Yeah, jumping jacks.
That's what they're doing.
As far as flight path, stationary, hovering, then straight line. But if you are curious, just check out MUFON case 102611 right here in Ocala, Florida, just a couple of days ago.
Interesting. So I always want to know what people that are posting this, seeing these sightings, the information about them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm a 50-something-year-old that still lives with my mom, or am I a successful researcher that loves to vacation in Ocala and happen to catch this? Was there video pictures, or just we're taking his word for it?
There are no pictures, but if this person is to be believed, I hope they get their camera out soon.
Amen, sister.
However, sometimes truth can be a lot stranger than fiction. I know that's an old cliche, but this is my story. You can find this on the Fort Fritz episode Terror at 40,000 Feet. A bit of a disclaimer, if you're about to go on any kind of cross-country trip on an airplane, you might want to reconsider. Although entirely safe, there are instances like these. This story is called The Last Minutes of Air France Flight 447, and you can hear this on the Fort Fritz Campfire Tales on the iHeartRadio app. Have you guys heard of Air France Flight 447?
No, but I'm pretty sure about to.
This actually is the precedent to the Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 that happened just a few years ago, back in 2015.
Still have no idea. Just bye-bye. Disappeared. Aliens.
Air France Flight 447 took off from Galileo International Airport. So Galileo. Yeah, but it's Portuguese, so it's like Galileo. They're like Galileo International Airport at 7:29 p.m. This was May 31st, 2009. The Air France Flight 447 would soon enter the constantly rewritten book of major airline disasters, unfortunately. The flight was an Airbus A330. So this is a modern, this is 2009. It's a modern 300 passenger plane, I think. And it was heading to Paris, France with a planned 13-hour duty time. So that's flight duration, also pre-flight planning, landing, and then hotel accommodations, getting every staff situated. Normally, the A330 is designed to be flown by a crew of 2 pilots, but due to this longer flight path, the crew on that evening was Captain Marc Dubois. He had over 10,000 flying hours, 58 years old, and 2 first officers. So the first one was David Robert. He had over 6,000 flying hours. He was 37 years old. And Pierre Bonin, with over 2,000 flying hours at 32 years old. So altogether, they had a ton of experience.
A whole bunch.
The A330 had a rest cabin just behind the cockpit because it could just keep on going. Captain Dubois, who again was 58 years old, he sent First Officer Robert to rest for the first break period. So they took off at 7:29 p.m. and Captain Dubois sent First Officer Robert to rest for the first break period, and he was going to take the second one because it's a 13-hour international flight from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil to Paris, France.
Wow.
You are going...
Some fancy motherfuckers, right? And also, it's Rio de Janeiro.
Kyo.
They don't say R's in Portuguese. Everything is, if it begins with an R, you say with an H.
Captain Dubois was going to take that second rest for himself. At 1:55 a.m., the captain woke First Officer Robert told him to take his place, which would be, the main in command. And he briefed both of the first officers before he took his rest 6 minutes later at 2:01 a.m. This is all local time. A couple minutes after that, the pilots warned the cabin crew the aircraft would be getting into really, really hard turbulence. This was in the intertropical convergence zone where the different trade winds all hit from the northeast and southeast, almost like this triangle, and that results in either stagnant calm winds, like nothing is going on, or the most violent supercells that can go up to 120,000 feet.
Damn!
Wow.
They started getting hail and grapple. Do you know what grapple is?
Janine Garoppolo?
Grapple is like sleet. It's like that, hail, ice that just clings.
Oh yeah.
And it's just immediately, it's like
It looks
plasma.
like the plane's freezing when
Yeah.
you look out and you're up
Yep.
there, and it looks
So
Okay.
that's
Grapple.
grapple. So hail and grapple starts hitting the plane at 2:01 a.m. This is where they hit the first snag that will drop them out of the sky. Pitot tubes, P-I-T-O-T. They're small tubes that are airspeed indicators, and they're located underneath airplanes. They're located underneath the cockpit. They became completely clogged at 2:10 a.m. when the airplane didn't know how fast it was going anymore. It disengaged completely from autopilot to alternate law 2, in quotes. This is manual flying. This immediately caused the craft to roll to the right from turbulence, which then made the pilot overcorrect to the left, shuttering the plane again. So you have to imagine passengers are immediately like, what the is happening? This would happen for several minutes.
Just going back and forth once again.
Just this pitch happened for 30 seconds as First Officer Bonin was fine-tuning the manual controls because he saw it. He goes, okay, well then, I have to do this, I have to do this. He suddenly pulled up on his side stick, which pitched the plane's nose up, which was excessive and entirely unnecessary. This caused the first stall warning. Since the angle of attack tolerance was exceeded. So they had a flame out. They were flying blind at this point. They had no gauge. They didn't see how fast they were going. So when they heard stall, First Officer Bonin, who was 32, had the least amount of experience, engaged in solo mode. He's now pulling up, nose up. Their speed is immediately dropping. It dropped from 315 miles per hour to 60.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Does he fast enough?
From half the speed of sound to I-4 on Thursday.
Due to the attack increase, Flight 447 climbed from its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, climbing 7,000 feet per minute in this takeoff nose up approach. Only takeoffs do that kind of nose up, and they even do 2,000 to 3,000. So never 7,000 feet per minute. At 2:11 a.m., the aircraft had climbed to its max altitude of 38,000 feet.
That's up there.
The nose was now at 16 degrees. Thrust was fully forward. These engines were going 100%, both of them. So this thing could easily do over 1,000. The first of 75 stall warnings activated while the nose was at 30 degrees as the plane descended, of which it never took further control. First Officer Robert took control, pushed forward to angle the nose down, which is the correct thing to do.
Yeah.
You then angle the nose down, restart the engine to get another flame, and then you can throttle forward, as crazy as it sounds, at the sky to build lift.
Have you ever seen, at an air show, when they do controlled stalls?
Yes.
That is just terrifying to think of that happening uncontrolled. When you see the planes do that, and when they just stop and just start, basically leaf in the wind, and then they'll kick in the engines because, they're doing it on purpose.
I've actually done that in a Cessna before.
How am I not
Really?
surprised? How am I not surprised by that in any shape or form?
Yeah, it's awesome.
That is not the word I need to describe it.
I mean, it wasn't as intense as that, but a friend of mine was getting his pilot's license and he took me out and he did a couple zero gravity falls with me. It was great.
That is incredible. So, First Officer Robert took control. This was at 2:11 a.m. and pushed forward to angle the nose down. So he's flying at the left side of the plane, and the standard, hey, I'm flying this thing. How about you settle down? However,
I don't think that's the terminology they used at that point and that calm tone of voice.
Simmer down now.
Hey, buddy, come on.
First Officer Bonin, to his right, was pulling back, canceling out this effort. And there is a video on YouTube where you see exactly what the left officer is doing and what the right officer is doing. It's super heartbreaking to even watch. Captain Dubois entered, heard the stall warnings, constantly playing, it would never stop, and said, "What the hell are you doing?" The altitude was now 35,000 feet, and the nose angle never dropped below 35 degrees again. So almost
shooting for the moon.
Yes. First Officer Robert responded with, "We've lost all control of the airplane. We don't understand anything. We've tried everything." And then climb. The plane descended at 10,912 feet per minute and remained stalled for the entire 3.5 minutes from 38,000
Oh my
feet. When First
It's
Officer
dead weight.
When First Officer Bonin replied, "But I've been at maximum nose up for a while," Captain Dubois realized that Bonin was causing the stall, and he shouted, No, don't climb." Lastly, the ground proximity warning system engaged with an ominous warning of an impending crash into the Atlantic Ocean. Bonin, realizing the situation was now hopeless, said, "We're going to crash. This can't be. But what's happening?" The last CVR recording was Captain Dubois saying, 10 degrees pitch attitude. Flight 447 crashed belly first into the ocean at 175 miles per hour.
Oh my God.
That's hitting concrete. You're not hitting water. You're hitting concrete at that speed.
2 years later, at a cost of hundreds of thousands of hours and millions of dollars, Air France found the wreckage of Flight 447 at a distance of 2 miles below the surface of the water. They actually used the same technology
Wow.
that James Cameron did when he found the Titanic.
James Cameron to the rescue once again.
With its CVR still intact, they found the plane was still responsive at all points during the flight. The error was a lack of communication between pilots, which ultimately paid the biggest cost.
Wow.
It's crazy. Just that the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I mean, not amazing. It's terrifying and horrible. But just when human error at that level. Whoa.
You are listening to Fort Fritz on Real Radio 104.1.
Fort Fritz on Real Radio 104.1.
Hey, welcome back to Fort Fritz. I am Fritz. I have Sabrina here with me. So this one was interesting, Sabrina. CNET.com. We know all about the Area 51 raid event on Facebook, right?
Yes, Storm Area 51, they can't stop us all. I believe September 21st?
You're close.
22nd.
21st, but now things have changed.
Oh, no.
So the CNET.com article is Area 51 raid event, quote, "to see them aliens," unquote, removed by Facebook.
Oh, no.
Yep. Matthew Roberts started it all as a joke. Now a festival is actually being set up on September 20th because it was removed. So it appears as though Facebook took the page down on August 3rd for violating community standards.
Okay, so you go ahead, Facebook, and you get all the headlines, and people are talking about it for months. Millions have expressed their interest and or going.
Yeah, it piqued the interest of everyone.
And then you'd pull the rug from under everyone's fun when you decide, Mark?
The event creator, Matthew Roberts, posted a screenshot on his personal Facebook page of the notice Facebook had sent him, saying it had taken down the event because it, quote, went against, unquote, Facebook's, quote, community standards, unquote. Robert said, "I never got any reason behind the event being removed. I created a sister event which amassed about 15,000 people before being taken down for no reason." So they did it twice.
What the hell, Facebook? Back off.
I
People
think-
are actually using your social media.
I think if anything, it doesn't violate a community standard outside of, having fun with trying to find the unexplainable. I mean, granted, it is a military installation.
Yeah, but
So-
at the same time, if they wanted to remove it, they should have done it a long time ago. I mean, We've
Exactly.
been talking about this for a month.
A long time.
So they're actually going to plan a festival right outside of Area 51, like with vendors and music and that stuff?
They are now. Yeah, that's going to be September 20th. Robert said, I think it's pretty reckless of Facebook, especially because I'm trying to direct people away from storming the base, and now I've lost my entire audience. He expects around 20,000 people, though, to still attend the festival September 20th.
What a gig. That
Yeah.
guy makes a funny for a Facebook event and now is going to profit from this funny.
Now, if we thought we could figure out what Facebook does on a daily basis, it pales in comparison to the folklores of the ancient Seminole Native American tribe, the Unconquered. This one is from Kaz. It's the Seminole Owlman, and you can find this on the Fort Fritz episode, Nick Spry's Crippling Debt. Just open up that iHeartRadio app and search the Seminole Owlman in Fort Fritz Campfire Tales.
Mine is actually more ancient, more wise, more established than your dorky ass goatmen.
Hey.
And your silly little fish people.
Hey, frog people.
And your stupid ass tree.
Trees are wise.
They are wise, of course.
All right, I'll give you that.
Musical instruments.
But they're pretty stationary. Not like an owl or an owl man. This is a native cryptid. This is one of our homegrown folklore legends by the Seminole tribe.
Really? That close?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
This is of the Stikini or the Stigini.
How do you spell it?
Stikini. Stikini.
Stinkini.
No N.
Okay.
I did that too. Funny,
Like a really
racist, like
farty
Italian
magician.
thing. Yeah, all right.
A really flatulent magician. And the great Stikini.
The great Stinkini?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Also reminds me of Willow, the Daikini child.
All right.
Watch me clear this room.
Disappeared. It's like a magic.
So just to clarify, it's Stikini.
Correct.
Okay.
Stikini.
Stickini.
Or
Yeah, that's weird.
Ishtikini. So, according to legend, the Stikini are actually during the day normal people. They're in the tribe. They're you would know them. They say that, and again, this might be sort of attributed to people's general sort of distaste for the counterculture, the weirdo or whatever. They say that normally the Stikini is like the kind of the weird guy that stays to himself and isn't really into like all the other stuff and is kind of like maybe secretive. And that's how you might know him in your tribe. But at night, the Stikini has another form. He turns into an owl man specifically. He's got big buff arms and like a scary owl face, like a knowing, scary owl face. You know what I'm talking about?
Knowing, scary owl face, like
Nose,
Like a human with owl eyes.
you know, it's almost kind of cute, but still, like it's like bird, so that you don't know if they're angry or they're what. It's just
is this like a
blank,
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type
very,
of thing?
Yeah, very like hybrid, chimera-ish kind of thing. But the interesting thing about the Stikini is that, other than the fact that he's a half owl person, is that
Besides that,
there's more.
There's more to his Tinder profile. Yeah, in with that. I'm an owl person.
Yeah, we're swiping.
just looking for friends in town for a couple mice.
God first.
Wait, I have a question. Can he turn his head around?
He can.
What?
He can. He turns it all the way around. He looks at you from any angle. He's got perfect stereoscopic vision. And he can fly. Silently.
Yeah.
Did you know that owls, quick aside, owl minute, did you know that owls actually hunt other owls?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I heard an owl killing another owl in my backyard like a couple of nights. It almost sounded like they were having an argument at first. And then I was like, there's no way one owl is attacking another owl. And I looked it up and they're like, yeah, sure enough, like they'll hunt each other.
What
if
were
there's
they
a smaller
arguing
one.
about?
It was
3 licks. No, 2 licks to the center of the Tootsie Pop.
Instead of saying, whoo, they're going, why?
So yeah, it was scary. The sound of 2 owls fighting or killing each other.
That's a good
Never.
band name. The sound of 2
2 owls
fighting.
killing each other.
That actually is pretty good.
It's really specific band
The
name.
sound of
We've
two
had
owls.
great band names on
Yeah.
this show.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
I feel
you
like that should be
trademark on all of them.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That
They
should
all
be part
belong
of
to Fort
like
Fritz.
Right.
By definition.
But ultimately, Kaz, I mean, is this Owlman? I mean, what kind of fighting skills does he bring to the table?
So, first of all, he is essentially immortal.
What?
Because prior to going on his nightly hunts, he regurgitates his own internal organs and his soul.
What?
His mortal
What?
soul, Nick Spry. He regurgitates these and hangs them up in the trees to hide from would-be predators or potential assailants.
What is that?
So a soul has weight and can hang.
Correct.
Like Peter Pan's shadow? Like, what's going on?
It's like a combination of Peter Pan's shadow, a sack full of human organs, and just sort of like a general mucusy kind of like containment thing that he can then hang up in a tree.
If anything, that makes him super vulnerable to anyone who is like, you know, trying to like an underwear thief or something like that.
Does he have like a retractable clothesline?
He has the power, Angela, of being an hyper-intelligent woodland creature that knows where to hide his organs, his potential weakness, his Achilles heel, if you will. He knows where to hide these things away from potential predators.
Away from bears, even.
Bears, or like, you know, even like your like larger raccoons.
Not the small ones.
They're not worried about that. They're not
tree.
chewing through the mucus sac.
Hillbillies.
After he hangs up his Achilles heel.
Yeah, changes into his jammies.
This is his war. These are war PJs. Like, this isn't like
War PJs.
That's a great band
There's
name
another
there.
band name
IP.
for it.
I wear them every day.
Hey, everyone, let's take this seriously, right? Owlman has war PJs now.
So he hangs, he hangs
She's on.
He's living in his tree
Nighttime
house.
is when it pops off. He puts his organs up. He goes up. He goes out on the hunt. He steals your still beating heart from your throat as you sleep. And
So like through the throat down, or like
through
in
the
the
throat
mouth,
down.
and, you know, like through the mouth down, or through the
mouth
throat
down,
mouth
right in,
Okay.
grabs it out, eats it, and then he returns to his organ sac and he reconsumes his organs and his soul, and he reconvenes in his normal human body, and he returns to the tribe, never to be suspected.
Damn.
So we've
Terrifying.
we've got brute force. He's ripping your heart out of your chest. He's ancient, and he's wise,
All right,
and he's buff too. He's buff like the goat man.
And he can also live forever.
He lives forever.
Well, I mean, come on.
Lives forever with the caveat of that no one snatches
so I will
away
say-
his organs out of a tree from a dry cleaning hanger.
I will say,
Thank
okay,
you.
according to legend, he does have one vulnerable spot. And I'm sure you guys have probably already guessed it. It's if you happen to find his organ sac when it's outside of his body, and probably just deal it like a serious blow.
like his Achilles pancreas.
It'll probably just die. But again, we're talking about a wise, ancient creature. It's been here for almost forever, since before us, at least before 1986. And that thing,
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
and that thing, I think would have the foresight to get a good hiding spot. And I trust him.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
really question him because he's pretty wise. And I don't like looking at birds in the face too long.
I'm gonna get that sack.
In just a few minutes, Sabrina and I have a ghost story that will definitely creep you out. More Fort Fritz on Real Radio 104.
Mills Air.
Fort Fritz on Real Radio 104.1.
Welcome back to Fort Fritz. I am Fritz. Sabrina is also here with me. This is a video that's been making the rounds. I'm going to go ahead and hit play because the music
Why
is
do you have pornography up right now,
No,
Dev? Come on.
That's this tab.
Oh, got it.
So this is from StoryTrender.com. I saw it first on Cater's News, which is kind of like an aggregate site for different videos. The title, Surveillance Camera Spots Creepy Ghost Figure Running Down Driveway 4 days After Father Passes Away. So I'm going to hit play. Tell me what you see.
Whoa.
Nice scary music. There it is.
Oh, wow.
This is at realradio.fm if you'd like to see
that was
it.
him. That was him.
Look at that. There's a shadow in the car first, and then it moves. It's like a mist.
Wild. How do you feel about, figures like that? Here, earlier talking about aliens and stuff, but what do you think that is? Do you think it's a spirit? Do you think those spirits exist? Or is it the energy that they once had and it did not get put into the ground proper?
I think, that's a tenet of physics, right? Energy cannot be destroyed or created. It can only be like transmogrified. And so I don't know, but there's a really fascinating backstory behind this From the article, a ghostly spirit was spotted running down a household's driveway only 4 days after the death of the grieving homeowner's father. Now, number one, we don't know if it was running.
Yeah, I would say a jog at most.
Didn't have any legs.
I don't know. If it does have legs, ghost legs, maybe they're longer.
Yeah,
so it was
how
just
long-
taking a big stride.
Do ghosts have shorter or longer strides? Even though Bjorn states he doesn't believe in ghosts, which is common, he couldn't find any other explanation for the spectral figure and its reflection in the windows of his home, especially considering Bjorn's wife's father passed away only 4 days prior to the sighting.
Oh my God, that sounds kind of like a nightmare that your dead father-in-law is haunting you at your house now, right?
Well, going back to what you said about an emanated spirit, if someone was grieving for someone who has passed, maybe they kind of gave that energy an invitation to manifest itself.
It's an interesting point.
To kind of, say, hey, everything's fine.
We're good here.
Yeah.
And also, good on that guy for finding that piece of footage. I have a security camera, and I never think, I always think when I'm doing something really weird at home to go back to the footage to put that on the internet and have people laugh at me.
Sure.
But never do I go back to look for ghosts when I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah,
right?
You could totally look for ghosts. Bjorn said, I got really creeped when I saw the video because it really looks like a shadow, and I would agree, moving around my front bumper and then between my car and my house.
Weird.
So go to realradio.fm, check out that just absolutely puzzling, creepy ghost video from Sweden. Now, sometimes grieving can be sentimental or even special, as in that story. But then we have tales of a grieving woman on the entirely other side of the spectrum in Mexico. This is Angela's story, La Llorona, and you can find this on the Fort Fritz episode, For Whom the Dam Tolls. Just search La Llorona with 2 L's, The Weeping Woman, on Fort Fritz Campfire Tales and the iHeartRadio app.
This looks like a river of tears.
It does look very sad.
Have you guys ever heard of La Llorona?
No.
No.
Let me tell you about her. La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, is a legendary ghost of Mexican folklore who causes misfortune for all who are near her or hear her. And her story teaches you to always take kindly to your kin.
How do you spell this?
L-A, and then L-L-O-R-O-N-A.
La Llorona.
Llorona.
So lloró. I'm like messing up the end of
Llorona
it.
is to cry.
It's to cry. So it's the crying woman.
The crying sin.
Whoa, the
La
woman.
Llorona means the weeping woman.
The Weeping Shade.
No one is certain when this legend originated, but the common thread is that she is the spirit of a broken-hearted woman who drowned her own children and now spends an eternity looking for them in rivers, lakes, and streams. She roams from Mexico to South Texas, wailing into the heavens searching for her children and drowning other children she finds on her sad, infinite journey.
Oof. Rough.
Yeah.
Like, if I can't have mine, no one can have
No one
theirs.
can have any, right?
Yeah.
That's
Pretty
rough.
much.
Oof.
Maria was born into a poor peasant family in a small village in Mexico. She was captivating, said to be the most beautiful girl in the world. Poor and rich men of the area pined for her. During the day, she would work with her family, but at night she would drape herself in the finest white gowns and gallivant about the local fandangos, teasing all of the men.
But, like, teasing them, like, be like,
You can't get me.
like,
You there, boys, at the Fandango.
At the fandango in my white gown. You can't touch me.
At the Fandango.
She never wanted to marry any of them. She thought herself to be so beautiful that she would only marry the most handsome man in the world. Finally, a handsome young ranchero visited her small town. He was wild and rich, and Maria thought he was just as beautiful as she was. She married him believing that she had found her one true love, and the only man worthy of her hand in marriage.
wow.
They had 2 lovely daughters together, and Maria was so happy. But her husband did not enjoy his life with her. He thought he was better than Maria, as she came from a poor family in a tiny, humble village. He started leaving her for weeks and months at a time, womanizing, drinking, gambling. Whenever he returned, he barely spoke with Maria, only ever talking to their daughters. The last time he came back, Maria and her daughters were strolling the river when her husband rode in on a carriage. Sitting next to him was a young, elegant woman, most likely from money and just as beautiful as Maria.
That bastard.
As he approached them, he didn't even speak to Maria. He only spoke to his daughters, and then rode off with this new woman, never looking back. Maria went into a full fit of rage.
Yeah.
She was the most beautiful woman in the world, and how dare he leave her and only speak to their children. Out of pure anger and jealousy, Maria threw her children into the river and let them drown.
So he came back to their place, their residence,
Yes.
and refused to speak to Maria.
Just showed up with this chick and refused to talk to his wife.
Correct.
The side piece.
And he was already
Right.
starting
The
this.
side
like-
porn, if
yes.
you will.
He was already starting this before.
So this is something that was long in the works.
Upon realizing what she had done, she tried to save them and reached her arms out as they disappeared into the water. She was inconsolable with grief and ran down the streets of the village wailing and crying at the loss of her children. And because Maria had always acted like she was better than everyone, no one consoled her.
What? Yeah.
This one
What
was,
does she think?
Right.
She was kind of a bitch.
Right.
And then she's the one who threw him in the river.
She did it.
So that I don't necessarily see as a negative, right? Like maybe it was just a test of strength. Like, you know, you can throw your kids like in the lake to see if they can swim, but then you get them out, like you don't let them drown. So that was rude.
She didn't think about it. Not
It
good
wasn't
planning.
well thought out.
She mourned her daughter for weeks. She didn't eat or drink, just stumbled down the riverbanks looking for her dead daughter's bodies. She became thin, like a walking skeleton. And eventually she died by the river where she killed her children.
Did she pine away? Like she was so emaciated, she just let
Correct.
herself go?
She languished.
Travelers saw her body and buried her along the water. Soon after her death, people began claiming they had seen her thin frame draped in a white gown walking along the river or even on the water, weeping and wailing, looking for her dead daughters. Some said she was turned away from heaven because of what she did and not allowed in until she found them. And no one called her Maria anymore. She was now La Llorona, the weeping woman.
Wait, was she wearing all white?
Yes. White gown.
It's spooky. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty spooky.
Super spooky. It's a super spooky outfit to pick. What's the spookiest color I could wear as a ghost?
White.
A white gown.
Because it means pure in most religions.
As years went by, La Llorona's spirit grew more evil. She started kidnapping children and drowning them in rivers, lakes, and streams. She would beg them for forgiveness like they were her own children before, taking them to a water grave in hopes that her deaths would take the place of her own daughters. Children growing up in the area were told not to misbehave or go outside at night, otherwise La Llorona would snatch them up and take their lives. There's a story of a man named Epifanio Garcia who often argued with his parents when he was younger. After a heated argument, Epifanio and his brothers decided to leave their parents' house and took the horses and carriage. On their way, a woman appeared on the seat with them. She sat silently, and the boys, not sure what to do, decided to turn back home, not sure who this woman was or what she was. And she just whispered, "I will visit you again someday when you argue with your mother,"
Jesus.
Gross.
Wow.
and vanished.
So this was something that was picked up while en route? These guys were like, they had their horse and carriage?
Yes, these three brothers got in some fight with their parents, left, and she showed up on the carriage with them. They believe she spared them because they turned around to go back to their mother and father.
Wow.
For years, her spirit has haunted the region with stories like this. Her weeps and wails echo across bodies of water as she searches for her dead
Wow,
daughters.
that even sounds scary.
And she visits those who do not treat their families well. To this day, many children who have grown up in the Mexican South Texas area say that their parents used to warn them, "You better go to sleep, or La Llorona will come into your room and take you away."
Please check out Fort Fritz and Fort Fritz Campfire Tales on the iHeartRadio app. And thanks for listening. Up next, Bungalower in the Bus.
Until next time, pleasant dreams.